Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another English live stream. Here we are again. I'm lucky here once again to be accompanied by my ex-colleague and very, very good friend Lynne from putitlikethis.com. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. How are you, Lynne?
I'm fine. Is there a cheap imitation of me?
Well, if there is, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by it
Don't be fooled
because
by it. No, I'm the real
there's
one. It's me.
only
I'm
one
here.
Lynne. Only
There's
one
only one
Lynne.
Lynne, yeah. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching. So my name is Lynne. For those of you who, if it's your first time, my online business is called putitlikethis.com. I'm exclusively an online teacher. And I specialize in tailor making courses for you. So my students have, we identify the objective, the English that you want to use. So the situations that you're going to be using your English in. And then I try to design a course so that you can find your voice in English, so that you can say the kind of things that you want to say in English. People have lots of different aims. Some people prepare for exams. Some people want to make presentations. Some people are teachers and they're teaching in the medium of English and they want to improve things. Some people come to me specifically to improve their pronunciation. So I do a whole range of things. So if you go to my website, you can read a little bit about the different types of courses I offer. And if you're interested, you can contact me over the website. Wow, that was a long introduction, wasn't it? I was just trying to prove that I'm real. It's really me.
It's really, you're not an AI imitation, you're the
Not
real
an AI
Lynne.
imitation, no.
So there we are, Lynne from putitlikethis.com. And if it's your first time watching, hello, welcome. Please say hello in the chat if you're watching. My name's Craig from mansioningles.com, where if you're a Spanish speaker, you can study English for free. And we also have some paid resources over there on the website. If you prefer listening to improve your English, I suggest having a listen to a podcast I do with another good friend and ex-colleague, Reza, and that's at inglespodcast.com. And if you want to improve your speaking, why not go and look at my website, englishcraig.com. I'm in the middle of a conversation course at the moment with a group of lovely students, very, very highly motivated and lovely, lovely people. But if you're interested in joining the next one, go to the website, englishcraig.com. There's more information there, and I will help you improve your fluency and your speaking and your confidence with English. Mm-hmm. Today, what are we talking about today, Lynne? What's the topic?
Well, if you've joined us before this year, you know that this year we decided to do every 4 weeks. We were going to look at one of the 5 senses. I mean, they say we have 5 senses: sight, sound, taste, smell.
Hearing.
And today we're doing touch. So the sense of touch. And before we start, though, we have to think about the word touch because it's a really difficult word to say, isn't it? Many students have problems with it.
And we don't say it the same way, I've just realised.
Do we not? How do you say it?
Touch.
Touch. And what did I say?
Touch. It's more of an sound. It's more of an
touch. Touch. The thing is, it's that sound in English. There is variation between Craig and I, because Craig's from London, that's right, and I'm from the north, the south, and so there is a variation specifically on this sound. This sound doesn't exist in Spanish and many other languages, and it's a vowel sound, but the sound, I think Craig says it very lightly. He says and I say it a little bit stronger, but it's not o, it's I say it a little bit stronger than Craig. Mm-hmm. But this sound is if you have problems with that sound, the thing is, it's a vowel sound that doesn't have any muscles in use. So the other vowels, you go E or I or O or O. So you're using your lips and all the muscles in your face. But for this sound, you need to keep your mouth without any muscles in action. So you need to open your mouth in order to produce it. So you say, ah,
Ah,
just open your mouth, but don't put any muscles don't go in nothing like that, right? So you say, ah, ah.
ah, ah.
So that's the vowel sound. But the other problem is that we say ch at the end, touch, touch. And people don't like that sound because it's too many consonants. So it's not really ch. It really it's got a sound of a t ch, like cha cha cha, like the dance. So
Or a train, or a train.
or a train, or chocolate if you say chocolate. So touch. So you can try that. Touch.
I can hear Marcin and Gemma, two people I know well, saying that after us as we speak. Good to have you. Good to have you watching.
With it. You keep practicing that. Touch.
Keep practicing that. Touch.
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 And when we were preparing this live stream.
Ah!
No, live stream. Sorry. I was just saying to Craig that in actual fact, the vocabulary that you're going to learn today with touch is not. We don't often talk about it. What you read it because it's usually very descriptive language that they put in novels, for example.
Yes.
But of course, in real life, we don't we don't talk a lot about touch as such. We just do it. But we do read about it in novels, and sometimes you do need the vocabulary, especially at higher levels. If you're in higher level Cambridge exams in C1 or C2, then this is the kind of vocabulary that they will catch you out on. They will catch you out on it.
Absolutely. So let's kick off with a question for you. Can you think of something that you love touching, that gives you pleasure to touch, and something you hate or that you can't stand touching? And also, please say why. So that's your first question. Please write in the chat something you love touching and something you hate touching.
Yeah. And while you're putting that in the chat to share with us, Craig, I'm going to ask you. Tell me about what do you love touching and what can't you stand touching?
Well, I was thinking about this before we connected. Things I love touching certain kinds of material, for example, silk and good quality cotton. So natural fibers, natural material. I like touching that.
But those are very smooth materials, aren't they? I mean, there are natural materials that are not so nice, like wool, for example.
Well, cashmere wool that's very soft is lovely to touch.
Yes,
but also a cold drink on a hot day and a hot drink on a cold day. Something to warm you up.
Or to warm your hands. Hands. So you like touching like something warm or something very cold.
Yeah, and also if you drink a cold drink on a hot day, you're touching it with your hands, but it's also touching the inside of your body as you're drinking it. It's not just
taste, isn't it? That's one of the senses.
No, it's temperature.
It's temperature.
I think it's temperature. I think that. Okay, I mean, you can take something cold, like a cold can of Coca-Cola, and you can touch
like that feeling.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily taste. It's more the pleasure of the feeling of the different temperature.
The temperature, yeah. I really love touching certain types of. I mean, I like, like you said, the materials like silk or cotton or satin. This is satin; it's shiny, and I do like that feel of the material. But I also love the touch of certain stones. So certain stones that are very smooth and silky. I also like, for example, pearls. I like wearing pearls because I like touching them.
Are they real pearls?
Yes, they are.
Wow.
And if you get nice stones, like natural stones, the reason I like them is also to do with the temperature, because the more you touch them, the warmer they get. Like they are. they don't stay. When they're on your neck, they have a different feel to when they're not on your neck. And so I do like the feeling of certain stones as well, natural stones.
What do you hate touching?
Oh, I can't stand touching. And just the thought of it now is killing me. Cotton wool.
Really?
I
Oh, I don't
cannot,
mind that.
I cannot touch cotton wool. And like I'm talking about the cotton wool, you know, that you have to pull off, like it maybe comes in a big lump and
And
you
you use
have
it
to
to take your
separate
makeup
it.
off, for
No,
example.
I can touch they sell pads and the cotton discs I can touch. But I cannot take, you know, like if you in a medicine bag, sometimes they have like a big block of cotton wool and you tear off a little bit. And it's to do with it's also to do with the sound that the when you pull it and you feel it's kind of resistant. Oh God. And it just puts something through me and it makes me
Do
it's
you
like
feel?
when people don't like the sound of, you know, the nails on the blackboard and it gives them that horrible revulsion. Well, that's what I have when I touch cotton wool.
Got a phobia, a cotton wool phobia.
A
Or how
total
do you feel
phobia.
about candy floss at the cinema? It's quite similar.
Similar. But the thing is with candy floss, you can eat it and it dissolves. But for example, touching candy floss, no way. Couldn't touch candy floss. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you see the people making it. There's no way I could touch that. I can eat it, but I can't touch it.
Interesting. We've got a comment from Gemma. Let's see what she likes. I've just lost it. Here we are. Silky fabric, same as me, and not touching rough things. Doesn't like rough things.
Rough things.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Sometimes rough things are quite nice. I'm trying to think of something that's nice, that's rough.
Maybe a rough rock. You touch a
Yeah, you
cliffside,
touch a
and
cliffside or
granite or something.
sand, for example.
I don't like sand.
No, you don't like sand.
No,
No.
it goes everywhere. Hate it.
Yeah, it goes everywhere. That's true. But some things are quite nice, but not too rough. That's true. If they're very, very rough surfaces, they're not very nice. But
I don't
silky
like.
fabric's lovely, isn't it?
I don't like touching broken glass, wet
Oh,
paint.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Well, it's
think I could
dangerous, isn't it? Broken
Well,
glass.
it's dangerous, but I don't know. There's something fascinating about touching broken glass. I quite like it. Like gently, you touch it gently so it doesn't hurt you. And
Wet paint.
wet paint.
Yeah. If someone's just painted a wall and you don't know, and by mistake you touch it, it's like sticky, and it's oh no, I've just ruined the wall. I've got paint on my hands.
Doesn't
That's a
bother
horrible
me
feeling.
that
And
doesn't
also
bother me.
dirty and dusty places. You know, you go into a house that hasn't been cleaned for
Oh,
months,
uh-huh.
and there's dust and dirt everywhere. I don't like because
No.
it's just horrible. Yeah.
No. Sticky things are not very nice, are they?
No.
Things that like stick. So like if you go into a dirty kitchen and then maybe somebody has had some fruit and they haven't cleaned the surface and you stick to it, that's not very nice.
Yeah.
Hema says kiwis. That's right. Kiwis can be like rough, can't they? They're not. Well, they're hairy, aren't they? Kiwis.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know,
fun.
Hema, whether you like touching kiwis or not.
I'm guessing she doesn't like.
She doesn't like touching kiwis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we get to some vocabulary? Let's look at some adjectives. To the touch, something to the touch. If it's cold to the touch, then you feel cold when you touch it. If it's soft to the touch, you like the feel of it. So
Or you can say silky to the touch. It's soft to the touch. So you use an adjective and then you add these words to the touch. So you could say it's silky to the touch. The kiwis are hairy to the touch. or the
Silk is very smooth to the
silk is
touch.
smooth to the touch, and you can say silky as well. So that's one way you can describe touch. You put an adjective and then you add the words to the touch. And the other way you can describe the feel of things is to say, I love the feel of, and then you say the thing. So I love the feel of a kiwi. It's so hairy. And then you would use an adjective. I love the feel of satin. It's so smooth.
And you can use
For
hate.
example.
I hate the feel of a kiwi. It's so hairy. Depending on what you feel, how you feel about kiwis, obviously. So yeah. Gemma likes eating kiwis, but not touching them.
Touching them.
So how do you eat? How do you eat them, Gemma? Do you have somebody holding the kiwi for you as you're eating it? I mean, you must touch it to eat it, right?
Well, I suppose you could peel it.
You're touching it if
But
you're
you have to
peeling it.
touch it. That's true. And I have seen people.
Oh yes, yeah, that's what Gemma says. You have to
She
touch
says
them to eat them.
to
Yeah.
eat them, yeah. And I have seen people cutting kiwis in half, and
I
then
do
they
that
eat them like
with
an
a spoon.
egg.
With a
They
spoon, yeah.
them out.
It's the most sensible way
Yeah.
of eating a kiwi, in my opinion.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
peeling kiwis. I just peel them. It's faster.
Okay,
Okay.
we've got some neutral adjectives that we can use to describe things we touch. Thick and thin. Thick and thin as adjectives. Would we use those two words to describe touch? Thick to the touch?
I think it's thick. It's very thick.
It's very thick.
Um,
More sight, isn't it, than touch?
I don't know. I would say if you're
suppose.
describing how does it feel, and you can say it's very thick or it's very thin.
Yeah.
If you're
you
saying
could.
how does it feel, you
Yeah.
could do that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just putting my phone on silent because it wasn't on silent. Yes, so I think so. I think if you're blind or you're blindfolded and you're describing something, you could say it's very thick or it feels thin, it feels thick. And of course, temperature, as Craig said. So you
Warm
would
and
say
cold.
warm and cold.
Hot.
And then we have the two opposites, rough and smooth. Rough is a nasty spelling and it's a nasty pronunciation, but it's easy. It's rough.
Rough.
Again, though, that's the sound. Touch, rough. So it's that sound at the beginning, and then but the end of it is easy. It's just like it's a F sound, rough.
And then we've got hard and soft. So, for example, if you're cooking an egg, you can soft boil the egg so that the egg is very spongy and soft, or you can hard boil the egg so that you can peel it. So obviously hard and soft are opposites. So it can be soft to the touch, like really good quality wool, as Lynne said earlier, cashmere, for example. Or it can be hard to the touch, like stone or glass.
You can also say something is firm rather than soft. Now, firm isn't the same as hard because hard implies that it's a solid and that it doesn't change its form when something is hard, like a rock is hard. But for example, a mattress could be firm, which means it does have a little bit of flexibility, but it's not really soft.
Do you prefer a firm mattress or a soft
Yeah,
mattress?
I prefer a firm mattress. And you?
Yeah, me too. It's good for your back, I think, a firm mattress. Hi, Denise. Thanks for joining. Good to see you here.
Hi. And then we have wet and dry, which is the quality of how much water it's in it, isn't it? If something feels wet or something feels dry is the opposite. So they're kind of very neutral words, and I think probably most people know those words.
There's another word that you could use, speaking of wet and dry, and that's damp, and that's
Yes,
somewhere
we
in the
missed that
middle.
one. In the middle.
Somewhere in the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the chat. A damp cloth.
Now, we kind of classified those as like neutral adjectives in the sense that you might like thick things or thin things, you might like wet things, you might like dry things. So it doesn't really have there's no sense attached to it. It could be positive, it could be negative, depending on what you're talking about. But we do have some adjectives that are most definitely positive ones, I think, don't we?
Yes.
Like these ones. So these words, I'll just read them. Furry, that's sound. Furry, velvety, satiny, silky, glossy, and fleecy.
And if you notice, all we've done there, we've taken the noun, fur, velvet, satin, silk, gloss, and fleece, and to change it to an adjective, we've just put a Y on the end. Very easy.
Yeah. So I suppose if you don't know these words, we have to describe them. So furry is like an animal. An animal has a skin, but some animals, like for example bears or another furry animal, cats, for example, dogs too, when they have not skin like us, but they have that hair all over them, then they are furry. And people sometimes wear fur coats, for example.
Did you have a furry animal when you were young?
No, I didn't.
Like
I've never had a pet. No, have
no,
you?
not a live one, like a furry dog or something.
furry
Was it when
toy,
you were a
cuddly
furry
toy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, I loved my furry cuddly toys. Yeah, they're lovely.
So velvet is a kind of material. It's terciopelo in Spanish, if you're a Spanish speaker. So if something feels like velvet when you touch it, then it's velvety. And in the
Velvet
same way,
is like the material, in case there's no Spanish, if you're not a Spanish speaker here. Velvet is that material that a lot of kings and queens wear, isn't it? It's a very royal material. It's thick. Sometimes you can have velvet curtains as well. In the theatre, often the curtains are velvet and they are very, very thick. They don't let the light through. They're very warm and they're very soft to the touch. Yeah. And sometimes people have coats that are made of velvet, don't they? Velvet coats, I think, is a very common piece of clothing made of velvet.
and satin and silk are also both types of natural material. So satin is, you can get satin sheets, which they're very, very soft to the touch, very smooth. They keep
But they're
you
very
cool in the
shiny.
summer, and they're very
They're very
shiny.
shiny. So this blouse that I'm wearing is satiny. It's not real satin, but it's glossy. Where we've got glossy, glossy means that it shines a little bit.
And
Silky
fleecy,
comes from silk.
a sheep, the animal sheep, they have a fleece, which is the coat that sheep have before they remove it and shave it off. And you can also buy fleeces to wear. So in the winter, if you put a fleece on, it will keep you very warm. Although very often these days they are, they're not real; they're synthetic material.
And I think it's called polar, isn't it? They call it polar fleece, and it's a synthetic material.
Yeah.
But it's soft to the touch, and it's very warm. Yeah, so
Exactly.
fleecy. Often we talk about fleecy linings for slippers, don't we?
Yes.
When you have
in the winter.
slippers, or you have some slippers that have fleecy linings, so they're like nice and furry inside and keep your feet warm.
Not very useful in Spain, but in the UK they're nice.
No, that's true.
Okay, we've got a question for you. Let's see what you think about this. Are you very fussy or particular about the feel of the clothes you wear? What materials do you like next to your skin? And what materials do you hate wearing? So again, put your comments in the chat, practice your English, and we will help you as you're writing. So what materials do you, what the feel of things next to your skin, what do you like wearing? What materials do you like wearing? What about you, Lynn? What do you, obviously satin?
Yes, I love soft materials, and I have to say, the older I'm getting, the more particular I'm becoming about the materials I wear next to my skin. So I really like for example, wools. I like wool. I'm going away from synthetic. I don't like synthetic wool. So I don't like acrylic. I don't like polyester. I'd rather just have. I mean, I love cashmere. I
It's
love
expensive
all
though.
the soft wools, possum wool. I mean, all sorts of. But alpaca is lovely as well. But those kind of wools are very expensive, obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't have very many pieces of clothing with them, but I do like wool. I love silk. I think silk is a lovely and warm material. It's not very practical to wash, though. Satin is nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
me
I
too.
and I do like silky materials. I do.
Me too. I like good quality cotton as well. If I can afford a good shirt that's made of cotton,
Yeah,
then I will always go for cotton. Or there's another material that's very linen as well. Linen is
linen is
nice in the
nice.
summer because that's natural, isn't it? Linen, it's a natural
Yes.
fiber. Yeah.
And I'm becoming very, very particular about the sheets I have on my bed. And I really love high quality cotton sheets, but they have to be really high quality. And the really lovely ones I can't afford. I do look at them and feel them in the shop, but they are very, very expensive. But one day I will treat myself and buy the really, really expensive ones because they are lovely.
Yeah, it's curious. Marcin, who's in my conversation group, he said that yesterday we spoke about this in class. We were talking
Oh,
about
did you?
fast fashion, and yeah, this question came up to yesterday in the lesson because fast fashion is where you buy very cheap clothes that usually are synthetic, and you wear them once or twice and throw them away and buy something else. Whereas good quality, well-made clothes last longer. They give you more pleasure. Yes, they're more expensive, and they're calling that slow fashion. So that's the difference between fast and slow fashion. Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Martin. Denise says that she prefers pure cotton. Yes, me too, especially in the summer. She doesn't like synthetic fabrics.
Although I have to say, I also agree, Denise, but I have to say, I discovered that there are some synthetic silky fabrics which are very cool in the summer. There are some synthetic fabrics that don't keep warmth in. They really keep you cool. Yeah, I mean, natural is always better, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And Gemma says she has some preferences. I'm not sure what preferences you mean, Gemma, but let us know. And
Natural fabrics, she says,
natural fabrics,
as
okay.
well. I
Yeah.
think most people do, most people really do
Yeah.
prefer natural fabrics, but we're not being offered them very much.
And we can't always afford them, as you said before.
And maybe the planet cannot supply them in the same degree that we're used to. I mean, people are used to changing their clothes a lot now. They're
Yeah.
used to changing their wardrobes, and probably there just isn't the supply of natural wool and natural cotton and natural silk to satisfy everybody's demand for new clothes. I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's look at some negative adjectives now. Maybe some of these words are new for you. First one we've got there is scratchy. Again, we're taking scratch and adding a Y to make the adjective. To scratch is to do this. That's the verb. So you're scratching my arm here and scratch my nose. But if something feels scratchy, it's not smooth, and it kind of maybe the feel of a kiwi is a bit scratchy because of the hairs on the kiwi.
I think some of the wools can be very scratchy if you wear them next to your skin.
Yeah.
So if it's not cashmere and it's normal wool, sometimes it can be really itchy if you put it immediately next to your skin.
If
So
something's itchy, that makes you want to scratch it.
To
If you get an
scratch.
itch, that is when you scratch.
Yeah. So there are materials that feel very, very scratchy, some synthetic materials too. I remember once I got a coat and it was a beautiful coat, and on the outside it was like satiny and it felt beautiful, but they didn't line the coat. So there was no lining inside. And the inside of this material that felt beautiful on the outside, the inside was really scratchy.
Couldn't you turn it inside out and wear the outside on the inside and the inside
Well,
on the
possibly,
outside?
but then it wouldn't have been nice to touch like this either. I mean, like when I've got something nice on, I want to touch it in
Want to
all
touch
ways.
it? Yeah, true.
So, I mean, yeah, so it was a bit of a pity because some materials are beautiful, but only on one side, and then on the other side, they're not. So,
Can you explain the next word, Lynn? Because I'm not familiar with it.
bobbly.
Bobbly. What does that
Bobbly.
mean?
Bobbly is when you get synthetic fabrics, but even it happens now also to cheap quality cotton. And then when that fabric touches another thing, it could be maybe it's touching your coat. Maybe you've got like a blouse on, a cotton shirt, and then you put a coat on top of it and a handbag. And then the next time you take the things off, you notice little balls of material that are
Yes.
building on the fabric. It
Bubbles.
happens an awful lot with fleeces, those polar fleeces. Or it can happen with very cheap quality cotton bed sheets that just from the friction involved on you sleeping on the sheets, you end up with all these little bubbles of material. That's bobbly.
Yeah, not very nice.
No, it's horrible. I hate bobbly. I hate bobbly bed sheets. I can't stand bobbly bed
Yeah,
sheets.
they're usually synthetic, aren't they? The bobbly ones.
But it happens a lot now with cotton. If you don't get really high quality cotton, then cotton can go bobbly as well. And all natural wools can also go bobbly. I don't know whether they treat the wools, so they don't do that normally. But you've got to be careful with wool. Even with a cashmere jumper, if you use a handbag and the handbag keeps rubbing here on your sweater, then you'll get a big patch on the wool where it becomes bobbly.
Yeah. Damp we had before. It's somewhere in the middle of wet and dry, a damp cloth. And squishy, if something's squishy, it's got more water in it than when it's damp. Imagine you have some material or maybe a sponge that you're using in the shower, and it's got so much water in it that it becomes squishy. Also, if you're wearing boots and it's raining a lot and the water goes inside your boots, your socks are wet, and you're walking like that, then it's a squishy feeling because your socks are wet. It's horrible. I hate that feeling.
It's also a sound, isn't it? The word squishy, we use it to describe the feeling, but also it's a bit the noise, isn't it, as well? Yeah. And then scaly. Ooh, scaly is a horrible word, isn't it? I always think of like a snake. A snake has scales. It's like the skin in little bits of skin, isn't it? Is scaly. And the idea is that it flakes off somehow when something's scaly. It's also very rough, isn't it? The idea of something that's scaly.
Yeah.
Like what kind of animal is, apart from a snake, would be scaly?
A turtle? The neck of a turtle, perhaps?
The neck of a turtle. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweaty, you probably see there the word sweat when you perspire in the summer. And something when you touch something, it feels sweaty. Again, it feels like skin could be damp. For example, you're sweating a lot, so it's got a sweaty feel to it.
Dented. I don't know if you know that word, dented. Now, dented, it's when you have like an indent, don't you? So what could be dented? Imagine your car. Right? So imagine your car and you, by accident, you bump into, let's say, one of those bollards where to stop you parking, and you don't realize it, you don't see it, and you hit your car. And then your car door instead of staying round like that, it has an indent. That is dented. So when something is no longer smooth, but it has an area of its surface which is going inwards, that is dented. Sometimes at the supermarket, if you buy a can or a tin of vegetables or beans or whatever, if the can is damaged, then it will be dented, and you'll feel it. You'll feel it that it's dented because it's not smooth. It hasn't got the form that you imagine.
My dad used to sell dented cans in a market. He used to
Did
get
he?
them cheap. Yeah, he used to get them cheap, and really, really cheap, because if you have one dented can in a big case, then the whole case can be sold really
Oh,
cheaply.
really?
And then he sold them in the market. Dented cans of peas and peaches and all sorts.
Yes, because they used to say that if the can was dented, it could be if the air had been broken inside, then the food was bad.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always happen. But usually supermarkets don't sell cans if they've been dented. Oh, that's true.
Hairy is quite self-explanatory. Something that has a lot of hair, when you touch it, it feels hairy. So if I
That's
touch
him
my
as
head, I feel
kiwis.
hairy. Yeah, Hemmer's kiwis, for
Kiwis.
example. Yeah. What other things are hairy? Dogs, maybe. People's faces,
People's
under your
faces
arms,
can be hairy. Your legs could be hairy.
hairy legs, hairy arms. Yeah.
Yeah.
And itchy we had before. If something's itchy, then you scratch it. You scratch an itch. So there's something that's bothering you, your body becomes itchy. But I don't know if you can actually feel well, yes, wool. If you wear like
say wool
Lynn
feels
said
itchy.
before, and it's not good quality wool, it's quite rough, then it would probably feel itchy. Like you'd feel itchy wearing it because it's rubbing against your skin.
And then gritty. Now, grit are very, very small granules of rock or stone. Sand is a kind of grit. Sand is a little bit smoother, but especially gritty when it's a little bit sharp. Little tiny, tiny, tiny pieces of rock or any kind of solid substance. And when you have that in your socks, for example, then it might feel gritty when you're walking, because you can feel that you're on all these little tiny, tiny, tiny pieces of abrasive material or abrasive. I don't know how to explain that even. Am I doing a bad job? Sorry.
No, I
Craig,
think
rescue me.
that's clear. We both live in Valencia, and one very popular dish here in Valencia is paella valenciana, which is Valencian paella, the rice dish, and very often they put snails in the paella. But if they don't wash the snails well, and you eat the snail, then it's gritty because it has pieces of dirt and sand in it. So when it's horrible in your teeth. You can feel the grit that's left inside the snail.
So yeah, you can definitely feel it on your fingers, but you can feel it in your mouth if something is gritty.
And wrinkled. Well, I am of an age when wrinkles are appearing next to my eyes here. My neck is becoming wrinkled. It has lines. But there are certain types of material, like very rough leather, for example, or maybe a sheepskin coat, that when you touch it, you can feel the lines in the material. And you could say that it's wrinkled. It has those lines in it in a similar way to our skin when we get older, wrinkled.
Yeah, so it has those folds and the lines. Yeah, that's true. Something feeling wrinkled. Right.
So another question for you. Are you frightened of touching things without seeing them first? I've got a story about that. But,
you've got to tell us, because this is something that when you were kids you used to do. I put this question in because I remember that when I was a kid, you used to like blindfold and you would try to dare people, or you'd say, put your hand in this bag, and you didn't know what was in it, and would you do it, would you not? So go on then. Are you frightened, Craig? You please tell us about that if you are.
I went to Wales when I was 15 years old on a school trip.
Oh,
And it was one of these adventure holidays where you have to climb rocks and do all sorts of things in the countryside. And one thing we had to do was go inside this cave and crawl along on all fours. So we were very low and we were crawling on our knees and our hands through this dark, dark cave. We had a light, but the lights weren't working properly and my light went completely dark. I couldn't see anything. So I had to feel around this cave to get to the end. And I noticed as I was touching the walls of the cave that the walls were moving. And I felt this kind of furry thing moving. And all of a sudden my light came on and all of the walls of the cave were covered in spiders. So I kind of froze, and then luckily there was a teacher behind me, so he managed to get me to the end of the cave, and then we had to climb up to get out of this cave. I was petrified.
I bet you would have been. I couldn't have done that. That would have been awful. Awful.
Especially when the light went out and all I could feel was the movement of these furry things on the edge of the cave.
I think it must be. I mean, one thing, I'm terrified of touching things without seeing them first that are solid. But I mean, if it was moving, it would really freak me out. I think that would really freak me out.
I've never liked spiders.
No, after that, and if you're frightened of spiders, I'm not frightened of spiders. But for example, if I was to touch that and it was things like cockroaches, for example, that would give me such a revulsion. I would find that disgusting.
I woke up once with a cockroach on my pillow. That wasn't very nice.
Oh, that's horrible.
It was a very cheap hostel, and it was a very cheap youth hostel, and there was a cockroach on my pillow.
Oh, that's horrible. I remember in Valencia, we have an oceanography. Have you ever been to the oceanography, Craig?
Years ago, yeah.
Years ago. Well, they have an exhibit there which is touching, and you have all these holes, and you're supposed to put your hand in and you touch something from the sea, and then after you've touched it, then they tell you what it is. And I remember being terrified of doing that, but my children wanted to do it. It was a children's exhibit, so it was like, yeah, of course, yeah, you got to do it because everybody was doing it. And I did it, and you touched, like, they had different things, like they had sand in one of it. And then, of course, you touch the sand and you think, no, it's okay, it's only sand. And then you touch something else and it was like pebbles, little rocks, and you think, yeah, that's okay. And then you put your hand in and I touched something and it was the skin of a shark.
Oh, wow. What was it? What did it feel like?
Oh, it was disgusting. It was cold. It was cold. It was a little bit wrinkly. A little bit rough, and it was like a little bit rough, and it wasn't solid. It was kind of firm, but it was very unusual, the skin of a shark, I have to say. And so that was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then I stopped and I went and washed my hands because everybody else is touching it. It's not very hygienic either, those kind of exhibits.
Gemma said that she prefers, to see it first. Yeah, I think I do too. And yes, it was terrible, Gemma. It was horrible. It was a nightmare, as Denise says. But I've never liked spiders, but that really was the last straw.
Do you think here's a question for everybody. This question for you, Craig. Do you think that you fully appreciate your sense of touch?
No. I don't. And I think I had to take a train today, and there was a lady sitting next to me who was completely blind. And I was sitting there thinking, I wonder if like her other senses are much more developed. Like, I wonder if she's sitting there smelling what's around her and really focusing on her listening and hearing what's happening in the train. And obviously touching as well. I would imagine if you lose one of your senses, the other senses are amplified.
Yeah, I think that's true. I've heard that before. I think we're kind of, we just don't think about our sense of touch, but it's very, very important to us. I think if we didn't have it, you would really notice that you couldn't touch things. I know that my mother now, because she's getting much older, she told me that she's losing the ability in her fingertips to be able, like her fingers are not sensitive enough, and it really makes a difference just when you're trying to button your shirt, or whether you're trying to pick up a pen. If you haven't got that, because it's not just the idea of picking up the pen, it's about knowing how much pressure you have to put on your fingers to hold something.
Yeah.
And like the sense of touch is really, really clever. And I know that when my little anecdote is that many years ago, I lived in Africa for a while, and I was living in Guinea-Bissau, and it was very hot and it was tropical. And we were always sweating, like from morning till night, you were covered in sweat. And do you know, the sense of touch on your body was completely blunted. Like, I remember that when I came back to Europe and got back in this weather, that it was such a delight to actually feel things on my skin, and to feel and to be able to touch things and feel the difference between textures. But when you're in a climate where constantly you're sweating, your body is so wet that you can't feel the sensations of touch.
Yeah.
So that was
it's
quite an
horrible.
experience. I mean, we have it in Valencia as well in the summer, but it's temporary. And you go into air conditioning and you don't realize that it's come back again. But when you're in an area where it's constantly like that, you haven't got that finesse in your fingers. You haven't got that motor skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of appreciating touch, let's look at some different ways of touching, because these verbs are quite interesting. If you have a cat or a dog, for example, you can stroke the fur. Remember that word? If it's a furry animal, you can stroke your dog or cat. You can also stroke somebody's hair, you can stroke their arm to soothe them if you want to.
I hate people stroking my hair.
Doesn't it depend who? I mean,
No, I just don't like people stroking my hair. It really freaks me out. That's
well,
another
it's
thing.
good to know. I'll never do that, Lynn, I promise. Caress is another useful word. If you want to get intimate with someone, you can caress their skin or caress them. That's a very soft, delicate, often romantic way of touching someone. It's also a noun, so the verb and the noun, to caress and a caress.
But is a caress a kiss? A kind of kiss? Or is it a touch?
I think it's more a touch.
More a touch.
You can use soft kisses to caress someone, but as far as I know, it's mainly with the hands.
With the hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a soft, loving touch.
A
caress.
loving touch, a caress. And then pat. You can pat your dog on the head. You can pat somebody on the back if they've done well.
If they've done a good job.
Pat is that kind of action. That's to pat.
And tap is something we do a lot with our mobile phones these days. To hit the screen with your finger, you're tapping on the phone. You can tap on the door if you want to tell people you're behind the door.
And you can tap on the keyboard as well.
Tap someone on the shoulder as well.
And then we have rub. And rub is a constant movement like that. So you don't release, but you move it up and down. That is to rub. Often if you injure yourself, if you knock yourself and you really you bump into the table, sometimes in order to relieve the pain, you rub it. Uh-huh. Obviously, we also know the action of rubbing in cream. If you have cream to put on your face or on your skin, you put it on and you get a big white patch and you have to rub it in. That is rub.
Denise says that she appreciates touch when she strokes her dog. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Dogs like being stroked, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Now, fondle is quite similar to caress, I think. Again, it's a loving way of touching. If you're fondling someone, then you're touching them perhaps with the aim to arouse them sexually. So to fondle could be the beginning of something sexual, or it could just be a way to express emotion, to express your fondness of someone is to fondle them. So if you make a connection with that word fond and fondle, that might help you to remember the verb to fondle, to lovingly touch.
Don't I think though as well with fondle, it's got more like play with it, isn't it? It's like you're playing with something.
But I don't think you'd
Whereas
fondle your
caress,
dog, would you?
no.
No, not an
I
animal.
don't
It's
like
more
that.
another
I
person.
don't like the word fondle, I have to say. I find it a bit creepy. Like caress, I think is romantic. Fondle is a bit, yeah. I'm not into fondling.
You're not a fondler. Okay,
I'm not a fondler, no.
you're not fond of fondling.
I'm not fond of fondling, no. And scratch is this, isn't it? To
Yeah.
scratch with your
Scratch
nail.
and
You need your
itch.
nail to scratch.
That's a tongue twister. To scratch an itch.
To scratch an itch.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another question for you. Have you ever touched anything that surprised you and didn't feel the way it looked? So if you can think of an example, please write it in the chat and tell us.
Yeah, I'm sure I've done that before, that I've touched something that surprised me and didn't feel. I think sometimes with sea creatures, like they look so strange, don't they? Sea creatures. So like prawns or lobsters or starfish and jellyfish, for example. Not that I've ever touched a jellyfish. I wouldn't try to touch a jellyfish because it might sting me. But I think with things from the sea, I think it's sometimes a little bit deceiving. We're not used to touching things from the sea. So it's a bit unusual, isn't it? Animals generally, I think you have a better sense of it. Although I can remember actually in last year in the summer when I went to Peru, I touched an alpaca.
They're very soft, aren't they? Lovely to touch.
And the thing that surprised me, I knew that the alpaca would be soft, but what really surprised me was how warm it was. Because this alpaca had all its fur. So yes, I was expecting, and we know from alpaca wool that it's beautiful wool. And I knew that it looked soft and cuddly. But what I didn't expect was how lovely and warm it was. It was so warm that I didn't want to let it go. It was just because, of course, it was a living being underneath all of that beautiful wool, and it was heating up all this wool, and it was amazing. It was like touching an electric blanket. It was gorgeous.
Are they safe to be around, alpacas? Are they aggressive?
Alpacas are docile. It's the llamas that are a bit nasty.
Right.
The
The
llamas
llamas.
spit at you, but the alpacas are really sweet. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't going out alpaca hunting with wild alpacas. I was touching an alpaca that a farmer had,
Yeah.
and he said it was safe to
touch it.
to touch it.
I've touched a snake, and I expected a snake to be slimy. I'll put that word in the chat. Slimy. Slime is where if you go to the beach, the seaside, and you've got some rocks. Sometimes on the rocks you have green algae growing, green this seaweed that sticks to the rocks, and if you touch it, it feels slimy, like the inside of a snail. And I expected a snake to be like that, like the inside of a snail, like slimy. But it wasn't. It was quite smooth. The skin was lovely. It was It didn't feel scaly at all. We had that
Oh,
word before. It just felt very smooth and very warm. It was quite nice to the touch.
oh, Denise has got a lovely one. She says, I didn't know this. She says the tongue of cats is very different when they are licking you, Denise. Licking is Licking, but that's good. The tongue of cats is very different when they're licking you. They're different than dogs. Well, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I'm not very familiar with animals. I'm not sure I would. I think I would be frightened if a dog or a cat came and licked me.
I didn't know that cats licked you, Denise. So they lick you. I know dogs love to lick their owners as a sign of affection.
Yes.
But I don't think I've ever seen a cat. I've seen a cat licking its paws to clean itself, but I've never seen a cat lick its owner. Do they do that?
I don't know. I'm not a cat person or a dog person. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I have been licked by a cow before.
Yeah, so have I. Yeah.
Because the cows like to come and they explore with their tongues, don't they?
Yeah.
And I was surprised at how soft the tongue was.
Especially the baby cows. If you put your finger in their mouth, they'll suck your finger for ages. Well, they think it's the mother's. They're going to get milk.
Teat.
They think it's the mother's teat, so they suck your finger.
So they suck your finger. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got some idioms for you connected to touch. But before we show you, can you think of any more expressions or idioms connected to touch? Please write in the chat any idioms that you can think of that are connected to the idea of touching things, the word touch. Yeah. And we'll go through some with you. What have we got here? Then to be a bit touched.
No.
Crazy.
Yeah, and it means crazy. So if you say, oh, you're a bit touched, or he's a bit touched him, it means that you're crazy. But did you know that? Because I wasn't sure whether that was very northern.
I think it is northern. I haven't heard that before.
It's quite a northern expression, I think. And I think it probably comes from some kind of idea that you have been touched by God. You know, and it's made you a bit crazy or a bit supernatural.
Maybe by the devil, if you're...
Or by the devil. Maybe by the devil, yeah, probably. That makes more sense. If you've been touched by the devil, then you're a bit crazy. And go on. And you can be touched, just from the verb, to be touched.
But not
there's
physically.
An adjective, touching, and that means that you are moved emotionally. So emotionally, something has connected with you and it's brought up, it's made you emotional.
To have the touch, you can have the magic touch, for example, with if you have a talent for something, you can say that she has the magic touch for photography or the magic touch for art or music. So that means that you have a talent and an innate ability to do something well, to have the touch for something.
And my physiotherapist really literally has a magic touch. Every time she touches me, I'm better immediately.
Well, you'd have to give me her. You have to give me her telephone number.
Magic touch. Yeah, definitely. And then sometimes we use a touch of, and it means the same as a little bit of. So you can have a touch of madness, a touch of salt, or you can be like me and have a touch of class.
Yes, absolutely. That's not the classroom. That's the class of being high class.
Okay.
Touche, they say when you're fencing, when you're fighting with a sword. That's a sport. It comes from the French, touche, and it probably means touch, doesn't it?
Well, the thing is, it looks, you'll see that word in English, and it looks like touch, but you shouldn't pronounce it as touch. You have to say touche, and touche means I agree with you that that is the same, isn't it? You know, when you say touche, you say something, you crack a joke, I crack a joke, and then we are quit. We're equals. I say
equals, touche. Yeah.
But
it's showing appreciation for the thing that the other person says.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's touche. So that's something completely different, but it looks like touch. And then we have lots of idioms like keep in touch, get in touch, be in touch, stay in touch, lose touch, fall out of touch.
And you can use
Um,
contact to substitute for the word touch there, because if you use contact, you get in contact, be in contact, stay in contact. So that's what it means. If you're in touch with someone, then you have contact with them. So you're not physically touching them, but there is contact there through the phone, through the internet, or whatever.
And then the last one is a lovely phrase, let's touch base. And if you touch base, it means let's catch up, find out get in touch with, isn't it? I just wanted to touch base with you. If you call somebody and you haven't got necessarily a particular reason, but you just say, I just want to touch base with you, which means I want to find out what's going on and bring myself up to date with the news. That is to touch base, to be informed, if you like.
Exactly. And it was really nice to touch base with you today, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. It just flew by today. It went really, really quickly. So unfortunately, we have to say goodbye, but we hope you will stay in touch, because we'll be back in 2 weeks, won't we, Lynn?
We will indeed. And I don't know what we're doing in 2 weeks, but that's
There
your
will be
call.
something.
There'll be
There will be
something.
something, yeah. Before we go, we'll just remind you of how you can get in touch with us if you see what I did there. If you want to study English with us, do you want to go first, Lynn?
Yes, if you want a touch of class, and if you want to
Very
really
good.
find your voice, your own voice in English, then get in touch with me over my website at putitlikethis.com. And then there's a contact page, and if you fill that in, then I'll get back to you and I'll touch base and find out what it is you'd like to do with your English.
Very good. Very good. And my name's Craig from mansioningles.com, where you can study English, especially if you're a Spanish speaker. We've got lots of Spanish support on that webpage. If you want to improve your speaking skills, get in touch with me at englishcraig.com, and we can have a short 10-minute conversation on Zoom. I will see what level you are, and I'll give you more information about my conversation courses and how you can join. And if you prefer listening to podcasts, there is one I'd recommend because I'm on it. It's inglespodcast.com, and it's a podcast I do with a good friend of mine, Reza. It's weekly, and we've been doing it for over 10 years. So I think we're kind of getting the hang of it now. We're getting used to this podcasting thing. Yeah.
You are vintage podcasters. You are.
Yes, with wrinkled skin. Anyway, I just trying to recycle wrinkled there. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks, Denise, for coming. Thank you, Gemma and Marcin and everybody listening. And we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.